everybody, welcome along to episode 104 of Percussion Discussion. As always, I'm going to ask you to please check out our social media. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and of course our world famous YouTube channel where you can all find all of our conversations, past and present. Don't forget to subscribe. This way it ensures that you won't miss any of the upcoming content that we have coming your way. If you'd rather listen on the go, then don't forget all of our conversations are available in podcast form. These are free to download from your favorite podcast provider, so you know exactly what to do. On to today's guest, a fabulous drummer. Since 2006, he has been playing for American rockers Y&T, but he has like a whole other career before there, where he's played with some incredible artists such as Steve Lukather, John Denver. It's a really, really long list, and we're going to talk about some of those in the interview. So I can't wait to get into this. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome the fabulous Mr. Mike Vanderhule. Mike, thanks so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
You bet. I'm honored to be on your show. I've heard so much about it and all the great people you've had. So,
well,
yeah.
I'm very lucky, but you know, each guest is as important as the next one, and you know, it's nice to have a great variety of players. So there's enough to go around, isn't there? So that's great.
Yeah.
And
Let's right out of the gates. Let's thank John Tempesta for recommending me to you. Yeah, so
you took the words right out of my mouth. John has been a real friend to me. I pestered him for a lot of months to come on the show, and he's like, "Oh, I'm busy. I've got the." I'm sure it was the same. It was like everyone was doing podcasts when the COVID thing was happening, and
sure.
And since he's been on, he's got me so many great guests. So thank you, John.
Right.
Yeah, he's a good guy and a great drummer as well. So
oh yeah,
there we go. So did you? I think he said, were you at a Cult show or was he at a Y&T show? I can't remember which way around.
Yeah, no, I went to see the Cult about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Yeah, and great show. Yeah, they were playing locally, so
brilliant.
Yeah, he sounded better than ever with them, man. What a great band.
But do you know what? Yeah. I was thinking about this before we came on. Y&T and the Cult, although musically a bit different, but still a rich history of amazing drummers that have gone before you and John. And it's a similar kind of thing, isn't it? When you think about it.
It is, yeah. It is, yeah. Obviously Leonard Haze was before me, and Jimmy DeGrasso. Steve Smith played on a record, and so
Steve played on 10, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, just, and you look at the drummers that's gone before John as well. Just some incredible people. So there's a slight similarity. I know the music is different, but hey, there we go. So how's things at the moment with you, Mike? Are you obviously I don't like to use the C word, but we're kind of. It's still there in the background, but it's kind of. We don't think too much about it.
The bigger bands, it's the bands at like the club level, as in like local stuff, are playing all over the place, and then the huge touring bands are touring. But at our level, doing a full-on tour, the economy is still messed up, and just trying to connect the dots. If you want to go do a 2 or 3 shows over a weekend, it's kind of tough, and a lot of the venues are gone too. So, they got to be paying well and stuff, because it costs so much to travel, and diesel fuel and plane flights and hotel rooms. Everything's so expensive now. So we're hoping things will level off soon. Unfortunately, we had to cancel our European tour last year too. Well, it would have been just finishing up in November, but yeah, things are really tough over there right now. And also, I don't know if you heard, but Dave, our singer, he had a relapse of his prostate cancer at the beginning of the year, but he's going to be just fine. But he still had to go through all the treatments and everything. And he showed us his PSA test the other day, and it's down to almost nothing. So
brilliant.
We're all very happy about that. But yeah, so we had to, it's not COVID. It's like we got to take time off for that, but his health is most important. So we're looking forward to next year. Things picking up.
Good. I mean, the Europe thing is just a disaster with the Brexit thing, and it's just I speak to so many musicians, and it's literally ruined it for them. I've heard some horror stories from good friends of mine, and I hope it sorts itself out. And I can imagine, especially coming over from the States to Europe, the costs must be through the roof.
Yeah, we're looking at next year, just hoping things will change, because if it stays the way it is right now, it's just going to be so expensive, and it just doesn't work out to do it, you know.
No.
And a lot of our friends, all the bands, are pulling out until things change, you know. So
Yeah.
let's hope for the best, because most of our best fans, well, I won't say our best fans, but we do very well over there. So
Yeah.
especially the UK. So we can't wait to come back. You know,
When were you last in the UK, Mike?
2019.
Oh, right. Okay. Not that long
So,
ago then.
well, yeah. I mean, we were usually there every year,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
sometimes 2 years. But yeah, if we don't go till next year, it'll be 4 or 5 years coming up, you know, geez.
Well,
So,
there'll be a real hunger to see you anyway, I'd imagine. So
yeah, that's the good part.
yeah, they'll be
Yeah,
raring to go, you know.
yeah,
Buying
exactly.
plenty of merch. Hopefully.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah.
obviously, gigging aside, I know you're still busy doing sessions and stuff. I know we had to
Yes.
rearrange. Well, it was our conversation was going to be a few
Yeah.
days ago, and you had a session come in. And I always say, you know, never apologize for being busy. Take the work. So it's
Yeah,
good
I
that these
appreciate.
sessions are still happening. You know.
Yeah, and actually the other day I do most of my sessions, and thank God I know how to do this. Got me through COVID. Is I can record myself basically state of the art online,
Yeah.
and I've been doing that since gosh, I got the first home version of Pro Tools in like 1999, so I know how to do work the other side of the board. So when COVID hit, all these bands were calling me, going, "Wait, we can't even get together with our drummer. You know how to do that, right?" So it got me a lot of great work, and I also teach on Zoom, you know, like everybody else was doing. So yeah, so that got me through. But the other day I was doing a session in person, which was really fun. I haven't done that. I mean, forget about COVID. Even before COVID, it's just like everybody's doing passing around online things. So to sit there with 5 guys in a room with a producer, you know, trying out ideas, and then, okay, that feels good. And then you roll the tape, and it's like, it feels so good to have a band take, you know, it's amazing. You know, we
Like
got
the
to get
old
back to
days.
that.
Like the old
Yeah,
days.
exactly.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
amazing. I mean, are you? I'm guessing. Are you more comfortable in that situation rather than having to worry about the tech side of it? And I'm sure you've got your sounds dialed in, and you know it's fairly
Yeah.
straightforward. But would you rather be in an actual studio with actual musicians?
Well, yeah, that's always so much more rewarding, I'll say, you know, because you get an immediate result and you hear what you guys do and the energy and all that. But as long as it's good guys and a good engineer and producer who know what they're doing, because when I got my computer right next to me and all the mics are always set up ready to go, I'm fast, you know, and it's like I know where to punch and I know what I'm looking for, and I'll just do like 2 or 3 takes and send it to them. And here, you want me to change something? Let me know. So yeah, but I you know, playing with a band is always preferred.
And
Mhm.
are you more critical of your own playing when you're on your own? Do you think?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah,
You know
I
how
think
that is. You're listening to that click, looking at the grid, and you know somebody's might be really picky out there. Do they want the feel on top or back? You know, but when you're playing with a band, it's like, okay, we budged a little bit. So what? It feels great, you know. So yeah,
it's like
maybe, yeah,
an organic thing, then, isn't it? You just go with
yeah,
it,
yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah, I don't do much recording in here. I could do a little bit. I don't have the facility. So, is your facility actually at your house as well?
No, I can do everything but the drums because the neighborhood.
Ah,
But
right.
I rent like a rehearsal space basically. That's I can play any time of the day, and it
Okay.
sounds really good in my room. So I got it all dialed up, and then I do have a what do you want to call it? I call it like my low volume drum set, where I have the what do you call them? The remote, the silent stroke
Silent
heads,
strokes. Yeah.
and Zildjian's low volume cymbals,
Yeah.
and I teach online out of the house here on that, and I use my Zoom camera, and it compresses it enough that it sounds killer, you know, and I can talk over it, so I can just stay
That's the
home.
bonus. And I'm
Yeah.
guessing it doesn't affect the Zoom settings too much and doesn't send them berserk. You know, because I know it's
Oh, not at all. Yeah,
yeah,
it actually sounds really good over there. I use like I said, I use my Zoom camera,
yeah.
the Zoom brand camera, so it gives it you know, a nice little compression sound to it, and clear, you know.
That's the only thing with teaching on Zoom, and I've done like many drummers and teachers have taught,
Hmm.
and you work so hard to give the student this optimum sound, you know,
Yeah.
and the sound you get back is usually terrible. It's like
Oh yeah,
it's like somebody
yeah,
pissing in a tin can or something, you know?
yeah. Yeah, they got their laptop right next to them. Half
Yeah,
time, all you could see is like part of their hands or something. I'm
yeah,
like, put that where I can see what you're doing. And
yeah,
yeah, but the sound wise, it took me a while to figure out how to get the settings. So
yeah,
there's like an automatic like noise gate in Zoom.
yeah,
So when they start playing, all of a sudden it all goes away. So you got to teach them the first 15 minutes of every new student is trying to get the sound dialed in.
yeah. The
So
original sound of whatever it's
yeah,
called. Yeah, that's
exactly.
it.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
but it's kept us going. It's enabled us to do things like this with
yeah.
ease, and it's opened us up to so many things that we wouldn't have had access to before. So
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
I'm not going to knock it too much. So uh,
No, this is like the best thing to come out of COVID. It's like
yeah,
it's easier to communicate with the rest of the world. And I got students in Germany and the other side of the United States and UK, and it's really fun because you're making new friends and the world is smaller.
absolutely. So yeah, it's there's a lot of good come out of it. So if you don't
Yeah,
mind, Mike, let's go back to where kind of music caught fire for you. I mean, forget drums for a minute. What was your kind of
yeah.
first memory of music, if you like?
Boy, like everybody else, it was hearing the records your parents had and stuff like that, and trying to recreate it. So I was banging on everything. And my
Mm.
earliest memories, I wish I would have taken a picture of it, but I used to make drum sets out of coffee cans, and and change the lengths of them and put different pieces of plastic on like heads to see what sounded the best. And the only thing I couldn't recreate was a bass drum pedal. I couldn't figure out how to do it. So I had one of those big like backrests that you would have on your bed to like sit in and read, and I put that on my left side and I'd play like on my right side. I remember a plastic football, and then I took two coffee can like cutouts, the tin that I cut out, and I put them on a nail. So that was my open and close. I go, and on the left side, I'm playing my bass drum on the pillow, and I'm hitting my snare sound. So I'm playing. I never knew back then, but I just wanted to play the beats I
Open-handed.
heard. So I'm playing like this, and I'm developing these left-handed things against it. It's like I look back now, and I'm like, wow, that was a pretty damn good exercise. So
Yeah, for a
yeah, it was fun.
right-hander as well. Yeah, that's
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So I recommend that to every kid. Yeah. But
Oh,
yeah, it was just my parents were very supportive and loved music, and I remember school band was offering music classes in second grade, and when you're first starting, and you don't see that today, which is really sad. But I remember going up to school with my stepdad took me. We got to pick out the instruments, and I actually chose trumpet,
mm,
and I had a trumpet class and a band class. And all the time at home, I was tinkering with drums. And by the time I was in junior high school, I was playing both drums and trumpet all the way through high school. And I thought I was going to be a trumpet player and a drummer, but drums just came easier and there was more work, for me.
yeah.
So just kind of, I took that, I just followed the path that was there. I did play some trumpet after, but like I said, the drums just took over.
I guess playing, an instrument that you can play melodies on has got to help the musicality of the drumming side as well. You're a bit more sympathetic to how things work, and a bit of
Oh,
a,
definitely.
it's got to help, hasn't it? As a soloist.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know like Greg Bissonette was a trumpet player
Mm.
first, and a lot of great drummers were, and most people start on another instrument anyway. But the biggest way it helped me, first of all, taught me how to read music,
Yeah.
and also I played a lot of jazz band, big band stuff. So being in a horn section, you're really aware of the dynamics and how the horns feel it and the melody of what's going on, how to back up the horns, how to back up who's playing melody, dynamics, everything.
Mm.
Taught me all that and timekeeping and everything. So when I played drums, I wasn't thinking like a drummer. I'm thinking about supporting these guys. And I actually got to play drums in the jazz band the last couple of years. So yeah, definitely helps to play a different role in the band.
Yeah, and I guess if you're reading big band charts, you'll look at the hits and you'll know
Mhm.
exactly, because obviously with as a drummer with note lengths are generally not a thing we have a lot to do with. Obviously, but you've
Exactly.
got to fill around that, and coming from the trumpet side of things, the note lengths are all there, and it'll make
Yeah.
a lot more sense, won't it?
Oh, definitely. And it's funny because I can read drum music, but most people who write out note for note for note for note, I mean, who wants to read and play exactly that? But some of the guys want that. But what I usually get is a lead chart or a horn chart, and I can follow that a lot better. But yeah, and it really helps me today. Like if I got to go fill in for somebody and play, 2.5 hour show with them or something, I got to like have notes and write it all out, and it really helps to know how to just know where the hits are and the dynamics, and I'll write like a little cheat of the beat, the tempo, that kind of stuff. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for reading. I know there's people who knock it and say, well, it takes a bit of this out of it and it takes the creativity out, but it gives you so much more in return.
Yes.
There's
Yeah.
not that many people who can just turn up, do a gig, go home. Luckily, I've worked hard on my reading over the years and I'm quite confident, but
Yes.
you do get slated every now and then for it. I'm sure you've had
Oh
it
yeah.
yourself,
Yeah. Well, for example, everybody knows who Kenny Aronoff is. The
Yes.
most in demand drummer. I went and saw this show the other night that Jim Irsay, he's the owner of like the Indianapolis Colts, and he owns this great collection of memorabilia, mostly guitars and one of Ringo's drum kits and everything. But he puts on this all-star concert for free for everybody to come and enjoy. And it's Ann Wilson from Heart, Buddy Guy, uh, who else? John Fogerty, all these guys, and then there's a house band that has Kenny Wayne Shepherd playing. Anyway, of course, you got Kenny Aronoff up there, and he's playing 2.5 hours, and he doesn't have time to do a whole rehearsal and everything with the band. Maybe they sound check a couple songs, but he's up there, and I've seen what he does. He writes out everything, and the guy plays with these people. It sounds like he's played all his life with these performers. And I saw him do the same thing, filling in for Todd Zuckerman in Styx when Todd was having his kid years ago. Wow. And not only does he get the notes right, but he's the retards at the end of the songs. The band's not even looking at him. It's just like Todd was playing, and he's so good at that. And he really listens and watches the band leader. But my take on the reading thing too, I teach all my students how to read. It's not reading doesn't mean you're not listening.
No.
You always play with your ears. But reading is just a faster way to communicate. Yeah. So, if you're on a session or, that the guy wants to teach you a song or something, he doesn't have to play it for you over and over and over and over and over. You just write out a cheat sheet and you be able to play it down in the first or second try, and if I'm teaching a student, if they can count, I'll tell them, no, that starts on the E of 4 or something, you're not sitting there. I don't have to play everything. And it helps you see polyrhythms and all that. You know what I'm saying? So I highly recommend reading. But yes, when you're in a session and you want to get that energy on the song, you got to try and get your head out of the music and play like you're playing in a concert, so that's a whole nother art in itself. But
yeah, that's the one thing I'm not so great at. I could play the same show for 6 months and I would still need to read it on the last show of the 6 months.
Yeah.
But hey, there we go. Maybe I don't do enough of it, but
yeah. Well, when you write out too, like I find that by the time I've written out something, it helps me remember. Yeah, that's a great way to learn a song. Is try and write it out. You'll learn it faster.
Yeah, I've heard so many top drummers say that same thing. So there's obviously something in that. And yeah. So there we go. So obviously you're in high school. You've put trumpet to one side, should we say, rather than put it down.
Yeah, after high school. That was way after high school.
Yeah,
I played it for a while. Yeah,
sure. Mm-hmm. So were you? I'm guessing you had lessons in school, did you, Mike?
Yeah, it was pretty much self-taught, but my band instructor, luckily we had a band leader who knew the guys who wanted to do it for a living, so they would really push us and help us. So like when I was playing trumpet, he was like giving us the Chuck Mangione charts and things like that. That was hot during the day, And then when I was playing drums, same thing. He'd give us some features and really push us, to be the best we could. So when we got out in the world, we had a little more under our belt, So I'm thankful for that. But I never really took any private lessons till I was older, and went back and I hunted down my hero and who became my mentor and friend, Steve Smith, and those were my first real formal drum lessons,
That's not it's not a bad first drum teacher, is it?
Oh, I got my butt kicked. Oh yeah, and that wasn't until like 1992, so I was well established in playing. But I just watched. What I tried to do was I looked at all my favorite drummers at the time, who were mostly the fusion guys, and I'm just calling it fusion because they could play in a rock setting as well as a jazz setting, and some of the guys who play all the styles of music. So obviously it was like Steve Smith and Vinnie Colaiuta and Dave Weckl and and God, on, and Cobham, Tony Williams, all the guys who came from that school. And then I also love the groovers, Jeff Porcaro, Mickey Curry, John Robinson, the list will go on forever. So I started going, okay, well, what do these guys have in common? And a lot of them went to Berklee College of Music. Okay, who were their teachers? What were they studying? What were they learning from? We didn't have YouTube or anything, so I'm trying to figure out, what the heck they were learning from and what, Alan Dawson and Gary Chafee were teaching them. So I tried to do most of that myself. And then luckily when I started taking from Steve, he was studying with Freddie Gruber at the time. For those who don't know, he was like Buddy Rich's roommate, but he's the king of the motions and the techniques. And he taught Weckl and everybody. And he's the one who made Neil Peart got a hold of and eventually switched to traditional grip and changed his drum setup and everything. So to learn through Steve what was going on with all that, it's like molar advanced, So that really, really helped my playing, definitely.
Pretty intense lessons, I'm sure, were they?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, some days we would just sit around and talk about life and music, and we became friends, and he's still to this day. Sometimes we'll just get on the phone and he'll be excited about learning something, or I'll get an email with like, check out what I'm working on and things like that, or or what his band's playing, or look, I played this cool solo, anything, He's such a great guy.
If you'd have thought when you were younger, that you'd have had Steve Smith calling you up and saying, hey, look, it's a crazy thought, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the first time I saw him in person was 1982. So 40 years ago, I saw him playing with Journey on the Escape Tour. Yeah, and if you would have told me then, I'd be able to call him on the phone and anytime or go see him, that I wouldn't have believed you, I still saved the, back then we had answering machines. I still have the cassette tape of when he called me.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, Steve is just the ultimate drumming chameleon from styles, the jazz big band. You'd happily use him on anything, wouldn't you? Let's be honest.
Yes. Anything he puts his mind to, he becomes, like you said, a chameleon. He could fit in anywhere and then some. He'll be the best at it, and he'll, he'll just become fluid with a huge language and that, And I've been watching him go through studying the Indian music and applying that to Western music, and and then his rock playing. We all enjoyed, when he was in Journey, and then the fusion stuff he played. Holy cow, So I had no idea anything, that he would become back when he was just my favorite drummer to watch, and boy, I hooked onto a good one. You know what I mean?
Definitely. The thing I always love about Steve, especially with Journey, he's a real parts player, isn't it? You can't just sit down and blag your way through Journey songs. You've got to play what he played, or it's just not going to work.
Exactly. Yeah. And even he said that when he got back together with them 6 years ago or something, he said, I had to write everything out, remember all the parts I was playing, because they're so important to the song.
Yeah.
And they made the songs what they are. You're absolutely right. A lot of rock drummers don't think that way. It's to them, it's kind of a jam, they just play whatever they're feeling, But yeah, I came from that school. You're either playing an improvised type of music or, you play parts. Of course, there's areas to stretch, but yeah, Steve's great at that.
Well, that kind of brings me nicely to my next point. Obviously, was it 2006 or 2007 when you joined Y&T? I can't remember. 2006.
2006. Yeah.
And we've already mentioned the drummers that have gone before you. Who've played on so many great albums. So I guess when you join a band as a non-existing member, you have to kind of respect what the great drummers before you've done. You kind of recreate what they've done, I suppose.
Oh, definitely. I was just talking to one of my students about this the other day because he got a gig, replacing somebody. And yeah, the first thing you have to do is honor the sound. Like Leonard Haze in Y&T is like Charlie Watts and the Stones. It's got to sound like that. I mean, I'm not going to play like Leonard Haze. I never will, no matter how hard I try, because I'll be me. But you got to honor the parts and the basic idea and the sounds, and then when I first got in the band, they wanted some things different. They wanted some change and a fresh approach. So we changed stuff, but we talk about it. But you're absolutely right. You gotta honor that sound. And the songs Jimmy played on, and obviously Steve played on. So yeah, I did a lot of listening, writing stuff out, figuring it out, and to the point where when we made our first studio album as a band, well, our only studio album since I've been in the band, Face Melter. we consciously sat down and said, what approach do you want to go for? And since it had been 13 years, they wanted it to sound like old school Y&T, but fresh.
Yeah.
So I did my homework, and what do? Okay, well, who were Leonard's favorite drummers, you know? So a lot of listening to Ian Pace again, who I already loved anyway, and John Bonham, of course, and you know, so it's fresh in your head, and Leonard, of course, and so I throw in some tips of the hat to Leonard and in the record and try and make it sound like old school Y&T, you know? So
That's great. I
yeah,
really like the fact that you've gone to the effort to source his influences to keep it authentic
yeah.
sounding. That's great.
Yeah, you're part of the band, and you got to get into the history of it. It's not like, okay, I'm in the band, it's going to be my way now. You know that you could do that maybe in the '80s or something like that. But especially when we play live, you know, thank God our fans are cool and they buy all the new music. We can play a lot of the new music too, but you know they want to hear all the old hits. And who doesn't? Who doesn't blame them? You know, and
Yeah.
luckily the music's so fun. I never get tired of playing any of the stuff. You
Sure.
know, I love playing the old stuff.
I mean, Face Melter is a great album anyway, and
Thank you.
I think my favorite song on there is Blind Patriot. I just love
Ah,
that song. I
thank you.
something about it that draws me back to it time and time again. It's like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Was it?
it's
I bet it was like a dream come true making that album, wasn't it? Finally getting to record some original stuff.
oh yeah, yeah, and it was kind of thrown on us. We had a deadline by the record company that we were using, and I think that's the only way to get anything done in our band is to have a real proper deadline because you know how it is. You know, well, we got 8 months, and well, we'll see you down the road. You know, but no, we got together and we were all set up to record as we were coming up with ideas. And that made everything sound super fresh. But on the other hand, they would go like, "Hey, let's have these drum breaks, kind of like Whitesnake would do at the end of this or something." So I play these drum fills, and they're like, "Yeah, that was great." And I'm like, "Cool, yeah, well, I'll go back and no, that was it. That was a great take." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, you know, you don't have any time, but you're right. We got this beautiful band first try thing that's got all the fire and energy." But yeah, Blind Patriot was fun. That's like real kick-ass ripping song. So, and there's a great representation of me throwing in Ian Pace ideas. You know,
Yes.
I'm doing all that snare work. You know, and that fits the song perfectly. You know, you got to have that kind of stuff. But you know, there's other stuff in there. But yeah, that one's fun to play too.
It's
So.
great. Is that generally in the live set?
You know what? We have so many things to pick from. We mix it up, but we do throw that in. You
Yeah.
know, every now and then it'll come out once or twice a year at least. You know,
Yeah.
but we make our set list literally like a half hour before the show.
Oh,
We're
really?
back there going, yeah. During the show, during the touring, we'll have a basic idea,
Mhm.
and before a tour starts, we'll go, well, it's the anniversary of 10, or it's the 30th anniversary of Black Tiger, or whatever, and we better play more of that. We'll go over the harmonies and things that we need to get through those arrangements. But then every night we're like, well, we'll look at Dave keeps a really accurate list of the set lists from year to year, and we'll go, okay, well, last year we were here, we played these. Okay, well, let's throw in this, let's throw in that, and the fans love it. We don't have to play the same thing every night, and and sometimes we'll just stop and people start yelling stuff out, and Dave will just kick into the song, and we'll jump in with him, and it's really fun because 9 times out of 10, hopefully we get it close, but we'll have some mistakes and stuff like that, and the people love it because, like, all right, they're human, you know, they're not playing the click tracks and stuff, you know.
I like that.
So
It keeps you really on the edge of your seat as well, doesn't it? It's more. I like a
yes,
challenge, and I'm sure most people are the same. You know, it could
oh
go
yeah,
wrong, but it probably won't.
yeah, and that's the fun too because Dave likes that. Dave doesn't want anybody he doesn't want clicks or background vocals going or anything like that. You know, not that great bands today don't do that. That you know, it can enhance the performance, but our kind of rock and roll, no way. You know, we need that raw energy. You know,
Nothing fake in
so
there, is there? It's all real.
not at all. All the wrong notes, all the out of tune harmonies, everything. It's all us.
You sing as well, don't you, Mike? You do some backing vocals too.
Yeah, I don't know if the word "well" is what you want to hear, but yeah, no, I've I like to say I got good pitch. I don't have a voice for a lead singer, but unfortunately, I'm singing all the high parts with Dave, sometimes
Oh,
above him. So to sit there and be going and have my mic and be singing out a long high note, it's like, boy, that took me a whole nother year to develop that,
yeah, I'm sure.
stamina. And it's like, yeah, I've never been in that situation before. So, but hey, I welcomed it. It's really fun. There's only four of us, so we got to sing, you know.
Of course, yeah. But do you know? And we have to mention this. You mentioned I mentioned vocals. Dave, without doubt, is one of the finest rock vocalists in existence. There's not David Coverdale
Definitely.
is one of my favorites, and I I I put him on a par with David Coverdale all day long.
Oh,
I just think he's
definitely.
magnificent.
Definitely. Yeah, all the great singers today. I mean, I'm trying to think of, like Eric Martin, Mickey Thomas, yeah, Coverdale. But okay, I got two great Dave stories. Uh, I remember when we went and saw Heaven and Hell with Dio singing,
Mhm.
and Dio loved Dave. That was his favorite singer. And I just remember we're backstage, and there's like 60 people hanging out and drinking wine and hanging out, just celebrating the show. And Dio grabs Dave and he's pounding on his chest, going, "Hey, everybody, you see this guy right here?" And he goes, "This is the best singer in rock and roll today." Dave's
Wow.
turning all red and everything. But to hear that from Dio, man,
Oh,
and it's just like, yeah. And then when Dio passed away, we were playing at Sweden Rock next. So when we were rehearsing at Dave's house, he has a studio that he built years ago. And he has these like what do you call it? Lights that go in the ceiling.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
what's the word I'm looking for?
Kind of
Anyways,
push
they're
fit
there.
light. Yeah,
They're
yeah.
permanent. Yeah, nothing ever happens to them. They're always there. They always work. So we're sitting there practicing Rainbow in the Dark, and he's channeling Ronnie, and he's singing it that style and everything. And all of a sudden, one of the lights just pops, and it just breaks, and the lights gloss on the floor. And we just stopped. Nobody said anything. We're like, wow, what was that?
Literally in the
So
dark.
yeah, yeah, there you go. Good one. But yeah, and then another good story is like we play these festivals all the time, and we were playing one in Florida, I think it was. And the bands always get there the night before, the day before, whatever. And we're all in the hotel lobby at the bar drinking, and everybody's drinking together. And Dave's like, "Okay, I'm going to bed." Dave makes sure he gets 8 hours of sleep. That's half the deal of singing, and takes
Yeah.
care of his voice. Doesn't drink a lot for it. And he's talking to all the singers, or everybody else is all at the bar. And all of a sudden, he takes off, go to bed, and made every other singer feel completely guilty. And they all took off. So, so all the singers went to bed. It's like,
Left the
but yeah,
animals at the bar.
he's so respected in the industry. Such a good singer.
I mean,
And
just always has. I think just trying to think of the first album I remember. It's probably Contagious. I think there's
yeah,
a lot because around '87 was a huge year for music, wasn't it? When you think of everything
yeah,
else that came out,
oh
um,
yeah, hmm
massive with the likes of Guns N' Roses, with
sure.
Europe, with Metallica, all the huge albums were out at that time.
Oh
So,
yeah.
were you a YNC
Oh, and one other
fan?
thing.
Go on, sorry,
Today
go on.
is Dave's birthday, but this won't air today. But happy birthday, Dave!
Oh, right, yes. So today is
Just reminded me of that. Yeah,
it's December the
that's
12th. So there we go.
yeah,
Happy birthday, Dave.
yeah. There you go. Sorry, had to throw that in there. It's my
No,
boss.
no, absolutely. Yeah, rightly so. And I was
Yeah.
going to say, Mike, were you a Y&T fan before you joined the band, or?
Everybody asks that question, and of course, they're a Bay Area band. I saw them many times,
Mm,
and what I loved about them most was
mm,
the energy of it all, and everything. So, but the stuff I was studying and listening to, I was, obviously more into the Steve Smiths and the Jeff Porcaros and the honed in stuff and everything like that. So I didn't really study Leonard and those guys so much. But I was aware of the music, and I saw them in concert. And when you see that energy and everything, that's the biggest thing I got from it. Was like, wow, these guys are crazy, and they make you want to play rock and roll. They were a lot of fun.
yeah.
So, but when I got in the band and started playing with them myself, it's like that's when I really became a fan of them. I didn't realize just how good they were until I played with them, man. And the writing process and hearing Dave like that, and the ideas they come up with, like, wow. And the best thing is, like, something I wasn't getting from any other band before. When we play together, it's kind of like, it feels like we're playing in the garage and there's no audience. We're
Mm,
just having fun.
yeah.
But on the other hand, we can't let each other down. It's like if you start slacking off music at all, you can feel the other guy's lighting a fire under your butt. So you can't play anything less than 100%, which is amazing. It's just we kick each other's butt on stage. And it's like I'll go on stage with them in front of anybody. We'll open up for any band because we always know we're going to give it our best. And the other bands have said that about us before. We played a show with Deep Purple one time. And I remember people are going, "Oh, they're getting old, they're kind of washed up, stuff like that." And we went out there and did our thing, and they came on and they were kicking ass, and like to think we had something to do with that, but yeah, yeah,
You
it's
know,
fun. We just have a good time.
it's so nice to hear that the passion is still there and you still want to get out and, take on the world. That's brilliant.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the way it should be. It really should.
Well, isn't that why we got excited about our instruments in the first place? And
Exactly.
hey, mom, buy me a drum set. It's not so I can meet girls. Well, yeah, sure, that happens. But when you're a kid, you're not thinking about any of that. You just want to play and recreate that energy that you're hearing on records and the dream.
It is 100% correct. And I mean, I'm looking at the backdrop behind you. Beautiful drum kit and a wall of Marshalls. That's the dream there, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. What's funny is if you look really close, this is a place called Vamped in Vegas, and you can see. Let me see if I can point. Okay, so how do you do this? Okay, that is which side is that on? Okay, so that's John's amp, and on this side, that's Dave's amp. But behind us, that's the amps are about this thick, and it's just fake on the wall.
Oh,
but it looks so cool. I'm like, yeah, that's my backdrop. So yeah. It actually, I shouldn't have said that. No, I'm actually sitting on my drum riser here. Yeah. This is in my house. Yeah.
How does that bass drum sound, Mike?
Well, here. Yeah. Just overdub something cool.
This isn't going to make any sense to the people listening on the podcast, but hey, there's an incredible concert backdrop of the Y&T backline behind. I'll just explain that. There we are.
Yeah. Well, on Zoom, you can put any background you want. So that's a picture I took with my phone myself. And
there you go. I've learned that today. But
I've got the coolest bass drum head in the business. You got to admit it. That's our Face Melter album cover. And Dismukes was the artist, and Jill, our manager, is really good in Photoshop, and she edited that together with the Y&T logo. And what's really funny is I sent that to Remo, and they made that head for me, but the first kit it went on was a silver sparkle kit I was using. Mm-hmm. So in 2014, Yamaha hooked me up this kit, and we put it on, and look, the red is exactly the same. I couldn't have asked for that. It's like it was meant to be.
It just dissolves into each other. It's so cool.
Yeah, yeah. It's such a beautiful drum head. Yeah.
Well, I went to see Saxon not so long ago, and they must have had, I don't know, I think it was 15 or 16 4x12s aside, and it was proper. How many were plugged in? I don't know, but it was like that. It was amazing.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, they got a great setup. Love those guys, man. What a great band.
Absolutely, Nigel's a great drummer. Been on the show, and a lovely guy. So look, Y&T aside, you've done some serious stuff. Recording and just playing for different people. I've written some of the names down. I mean, quite varied. Vince Neil being one. What did you do? What did you do with Vince?
Well, there at the time, Tony La Russa, who was a famous baseball manager for the Oakland A's and the St. Louis Cardinals. Him and his wife started this animal rescue foundation. They would have a fundraiser every year. So one of the artists that was going to be a guest one year was Vince Neil, and they needed a backup band. And I got the call. It's like, hey, we need a rock drummer. And then they asked me who else we can get. So I got John from Y&T to play with us. And it was fun because we had Eric Martin singing backups, and the singer from Santana, Tony Lindsay, at the time was singing. We had this all-star band, and Santana's bass player, and it was fun. And we backed him up for basically a set and got to play all the Motley Crue stuff, which was a blast, and sing with them and everything. So we had a good time.
I can't imagine having Eric Martin doing the backing vocals because his voice obliterates most people's voices.
Exactly. I think when Vince showed up to the sound check, because that's the only time we practiced with him to run it. We practiced on our own once, and we got together with him. And he showed up and saw who was playing. He was probably like, "Oh, okay," And he, don't worry, we got this covered.
Did it go
really
well?
Cool. It went really well. It went, and unfortunately, it was just a guest appearance in the set, and it went by really fast. Even the fans wanted to hear more. It's like, well, that's all we know.
What Motley Crue songs did you do? Just out of curiosity.
Oh God, let's see. That was so long ago. I just remember we did Led Zeppelin's Rock and Roll. That was fun. But Motley Crue, we did Smoking in the Boys' Room. We did Girls, Girls, Girls. Yeah. We did oh my gosh, I can't think of the name of it. One of my favorite ones.
Dr. Feelgood in there?
Oh yeah, we did Dr. Feelgood.
Oh, great song.
That's a groover, man. That's so much fun. That do. That's so much fun to play. But shoot, I can't remember the name of the other one. Another big, huge hit of theirs. It has that time change in it. It go through time changes and back and forth between the verse and the chorus. the whole feel changes. That's all I can tell you for a clue. I can't remember off the top of my head. It'll come to me later.
Oh, but, you know,
yeah.
I say your you know, the list of people you've played for. I'm just trying to think. I should have written them down. Steve Lukather was one name that you know, another guy who's been used to having the very, very best drummers in the business.
Well, unfortunately, I didn't get hired by him. That was another thing we were doing like this. It was kind of like a jam night thing, and he was in town recording, and I was in town doing something, and we got up there and we played like a whole set. It was really fun, song after song, and all covers. We played Hendrix and stuff like that and everything. So I'm like, hell, I'm putting that on my resume. I played with Lukather. He liked me, gave me a big hug after, but it wasn't like I got the call to be in his band or anything like that.
No,
but I would give anything. I'd give anything to play with that guy, man. He's everywhere. You know?
Just a genius, you know. And you look at the people he's played with, and it's pretty serious.
Everybody.
You know.
Oh yeah, I think at the end of the '70s and through the '80s, I think he's pretty much, well, him and Toto are on pretty much every hit that came out of LA. You know.
Absolutely.
And they wrote him. You know.
You didn't play Party in Simon's Pants then. That would have been a tricky one to pull off in a jam night, I think.
No, man. Yeah, boy, some of that stuff those guys did together. Yeah, what was the name of the side project they had? Los Lobotomies. That's what it was with Simon Phillips. Yeah, man. Some of that stuff, man. Like, was it Dave's Gone Skiing? I don't think that was a total sign. Yeah,
crazy stuff. Just,
That's what was that? Yeah, it was called Dave's Gone Skiing. I think they were recording and nobody could find Dave. It was a Toto session, and they asked, and the manager said, "Oh, he went skiing." They're like, "What? We're recording an album, you know?" So they wrote the song. They called it "David's Gone Skiing." But man, try and figure that stuff out, you know? Yeah, crazy.
There's not enough. There's not enough hours in the day or days in the week.
Yeah. But yeah, I've been fortunate enough. Most of the guys on the list, I actually got the calls to play with and things like that. So great learning experience, you know. And you know, one of the best ones I remember is Ronnie Montrose. I got a call to sub for Mick Brown on 2 gigs with Ronnie. And boy, I heard all the horror stories of how hard he was on drummers. So I called all the drummers I knew that had played with him. And what do I got to look out for? You know, and I got all prepared. And I tell you, man, Ronnie, he would stand right in front of the bass drum with his back to the audience, looking at me, just playing like this the whole time. And it just drives you crazy. And I'm like, is everything around me? He goes, yeah, I'm not saying anything, so you're doing fine, you know. And I'm like, that was it. If something was wrong, he would let you know. The only advice he gave me was he said, "Hey, let me ask you something. Does Dave and Phil make you play just like the record in Y&T? You ever throw anything in?" And I go, no, I could throw stuff in. And he goes, so why are you playing my songs just like the record? He goes, come on, man, let's do more. All right, I got the green light, you know.
That's good.
But you know, that first Montrose album, you don't want to play anything different. Those parts are so good, you know, Rock Candy and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, great. Of course.
So, but that was a fun one filling in for him. Yeah.
And there's an album that I have to mention because it is so good, and that's Lenny Smith and Friends.
Oh yeah. Oh, you're listening to that?
I have. Yeah. Well, I saw it and I was curious. I was like,
yeah.
I wonder. And that's from way back, 90s.
90s. It was the 90s, I think.
Late 90s.
Yeah.
And it's so authentic blues. It's a gorgeous album. Incredible.
Yeah. I was playing with these guys called the Russell Brothers, and Kevin Russell, guitar player, Brad Russell, the bass player, and we played in clubs and venues together, and it was a kick-ass band, man. We were really good, and we would back up other artists, and people like Neal Schon would show up and sit in with us all the time because they lived in the area. Steve Smith would show up, sit in, so it was kind of a well-known band, but we would back up people on records sometimes, and Kevin ended up producing that artist, and we were the backup band, and you know, I got to hand it to Kevin. I learned how to play, and this really helped my rock playing, was I learned how to play blues authentically by playing with him. He taught me, he said, listen to the 3 kings, B.B. King, Albert King, and Freddie King. And he would give me tapes and records, and you get those feels down. And then you realize, wow, all the early rock and roll was this stuff, you know? So now I'm got my foot in the door for Bonham and all these guys. I could play, you know, not just the beats, but I got the feels going now, you know, and to play a shuffle authentically is no easy trick, man, as you know, to get that left-handed, you know. And I was watching Kenny the other night, and Kenny, they were at one point it was Kenny Wayne Shepherd and Buddy Guy playing together, and that was my favorite part of the evening. And they were just jamming, and Kenny was laying down this seriously nice shuffle. I've never heard him play shuffle before, and it's just like, drummers, learn your blues, learn your shuffles, because man, you could play any kind of music if you start learning that kind of stuff. You know, all the rock bands came from the blues. Led Zeppelin was a blues band, everybody, you know, and yeah, so the shuffles too. I mean, you got your Chicago shuffles like B.B. King that are more jump, swing, and up, and your Texas shuffles, you know, with what's his name, Chris Slade? Yeah. No, not Chris Slade. Chris, no, that was a AC/DC dude. Yeah, no.
Not known for his shuffles.
Chris Slayton, right? Chris Slayton, he played with Steve Ray Vaughan.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Right. Okay. I'm not familiar with the name, but yeah, I know what you mean now.
Anyway, yeah, I mean, in that, you know, like Pride and Joy, the song, just back there and just groove, man. You know, just to learn those different styles. And don't just think it's just playing a shuffle beat. There's a lot more to it, you know.
Sure.
So, yeah. Anyway, did I answer your question?
But yeah, but
I got off on a subject there. Yeah.
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, hey, it's a drummer's chat thing, you know, it's just the way, and it's, but as you say, you know, to do a shuffle authentically and not make it sound wooden is a real art form, and it's a labor of love. You've got to spend the time on it. It's as simple as that, and then putting it into context with another musician is a different thing again, isn't it? You know, you can do it all you like in the rehearsal room, but
and the one thing I didn't say about that too is, like, since there's a little education going on here, I'm a teacher. When you're playing a shuffle with somebody, or any kind of music at all, especially with guitar players, watch the guy's right hand. And because you're going, well, how much do I swing? Is it or is it just watch his hand, and he's going to show you. And there's your shuffle, there's your groove, right? Even if it's rock and roll, you know, and you just, there's your feel. And those guys taught me all that stuff. And so when I sit in with a band, I'm going to hopefully groove with them exactly the way they're feeling it, you know. Not going to be a fight, you know.
Totally. So, I mean, there's one song that still fills me with dread because the feel is so in between swung and straight, and that's Johnny Be Good, and it terrifies me. If I have to play that, it's like, oh no. People laugh when I say that's a really tricky song to play.
Yeah, well, they don't get it. And if you listen to the piano, wait, I'd have to hear it again. The bass player's walking, so it's like a big band. And is the piano player straight? I can't remember. But some of the guys are swinging, some of the guys are playing straight because, and again, I always teach this too, go back and play the old school stuff. Go back and listen to the first rock drummers, because there were no rock drummers. They were all big band drummers, jazz drummers. Then, you know, the sock chorus of a big band chart, you know, do da 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 da, and then you go into a shuffle, the blues shuffles that we just talked about. Okay, so now they're trying to straighten that out, but there was never straight music. So you give these guys who have been playing swing all their life a challenge to straighten out. It's not going to be straight, but it came out the coolest feel ever. That in between thing, and try and cop that feel, because when you play those old school songs, that's what makes it drive. And the left hand is playing the groove. I mean, look at the modern one that everybody can relate to, Led Zeppelin, you know, rock and roll. It's a tip of the hat. And what was the name of that? Can You Hear Me Knocking? By
Dave.
Little Richard. Listen to the beginning of that song. It is the beginning of rock and roll, almost note for note. And also rock and roll, if you don't know, is like the beginning of Johnny Be Good. So he's 1, 2, 3, right? So John Bonham was no dummy. He's a very schooled, educated drummer listening to American music coming up, you know? And he just played it on a big, huge kit in a big room and made it his own, and then grew from there. But, you know, that song right there. But the left hand is playing the grooves just like the old school jazz guys used to play. So it's shuffling, but in a straight form, you know? So if that makes sense. Yeah.
It's an art form, and that song is never one. I've played it so many times, but I've never played it, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I've struggled through it.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the ones, even if you're not going to play with a band, learn it note for note, because, you know, you you got to get the authentic styles to move forward. You got to study the past to move forward. So if you're going to be a rock drummer, man, you got to get the basic Bonham. You got to get Mitch Mitchell, and Mitch Mitchell was no rock drummer at all. He was a big band jazz drummer. I mean, you listen to what do you call it? What's it called? Manic depressant, right?
Oh yeah, God.
Yeah. Okay, so my students, you know, they want to get into that, and or you want to turn them on to that. They start listening to that, and they love that, of course. So, all right, where did it come from? Well, Elvin Jones was Mitch Mitchell's favorite drummer, and if you listen to "These Are a Few of My Favorite Things" with Coltrane or things like that, that's the beat he's playing, but softer in jazz. So Mitch just, okay, it's a 3/4 swing song. Let's just pound that out. You know, that's what he knew to play, and you know, so you know. We're not reinventing the wheel here. We're just, you know, adding to it, you know. And that's the coolest rock music to me, is that old stuff, you know. I love it. You know?
Totally. Well, look, Mike, this has been an absolute joy and a bit of education in there, which is I don't always get that. So it's nice to have, you know, some things that people can take away and think about, and you know, hopefully
thank you.
put to use and practice. And so honestly, thanks so much for giving up your time so generously.
Thank you for having me. Yeah,
my pleasure. And thanks once again to John Tempesta for putting us in touch with each other. Yeah, indeed.
Definitely.
So look, well, let's hope we see you over on these shores soon with Y&T, and hopefully come along and say hello and
definitely
check out the show.
Definitely. What city are you in?
I'm in North Wales, so I'm kind of about 45 minutes from Liverpool, hour from Manchester, so not too
okay.
You know.
Okay. Yeah, we always play close to there, so yeah. Just it may be a year or two from now, so hopefully we'll get there soon. But
hopefully things will change and we can get back to normal, and you know, welcome some more bands from across the pond over, because there's not been that many at the moment. So you know,
and we'll have to have a pint after show. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm always up for that. Look, thanks so much, Mike. You've been a gentleman. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Matt.
All
right, buddy.
See you soon.
Thank
Take
you.
care.